Good morning. Welcome to the Meltdown. Folks, I appreciate you listening in. I hope you'll email me with questions. Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. That's Brett with two T's at thegoldexchange.net. You can always call the store, 281-548-2646. Hit option 0. That way you get a live voice. Now, I'm going to touch a little bit on the economy. We're going to talk about gold and silver and rare coins. And so what's going on in the world, the Super Bowl was not very super. If you're from Seattle and you weren't caught out there burning up cars and rejoicing in what was a landslide slaughter, it's not the most important thing that's going on in the world, but certainly the commercials seem to be getting their usual focus. Precious metals react to government decisions. I've tried to make that a serious point recently. And looking at the stock markets, what's going on overseas, how it affects the investor mentality here in the U.S. I can tell you that the Nikkei has lost almost 10% of its value in just the first 30 days of the calendar year. It's February the 3rd, no weekend trade, so we're only 22 days into the calendar year, business days, and we're seeing major corrections. Now, the Dow's not near its high. It's pulled back a few percentage points. My point in bringing it up is that when we do research, Michael and I, and we're looking at the different sources, and unfortunately we all have to rely on information coming out of the government, the Department of Labor, and Michael reads that we're gaining jobs, that we've created more than we're losing. You have to also define what is the real term of, quote, the Great Recession. Now, there are those of us that believe that the real impetus of the recession began in 2007. There are parts of the economy where the U.S. government, the Department of Labor, the other entities that are out there are talking about the recession having ended in 2009. Well, maybe it did for the top 0.5% or the top 1%, but I can tell you that what Michael and I are talking about, and I'll probably let Michael come on air or podcast and talk a little bit more about it this afternoon if he's up to it, is that upper income jobs, well, the rich get richer during QE. The middle class, part of the reason that Rick Santorum was so adamant about the middle class losing its ground is that those jobs that used to make up the middle class literally have been squeezed out of existence. Now, there's certainly enough debate about the jobs that have gone overseas, but we're talking about hiring more people at the lower end of the food chain and squeezing out the middle class by replacement, by just the fallout of everything, and the fact that automation is now going to cost more than labor becomes a big issue. We're talking about the fact that the 2 million jobs that have been created don't even hold a candle to the 7.5 million jobs that have been lost net. People who no longer are in the workforce, who are no longer apt at their trade because they can't afford to stay in the job market, they can't afford the education that's required. Heck, I've got a friend who had to go back to get more education to be able to get more money, and has to wait somewhere between a month and a quarter, 3 months, to get reimbursed for the education that the company's going to take advantage of. Things change and companies change. Large wireless firms cutting their prices to get more of you to switch around your cell phone plans. It's really cutthroat out there. Now, I'm going to look and talk about the fact that the wealthy are trying to figure out how to protect themselves, because the recollection of what happened in 2007 to 2009, when most people lost 40% of their IRAs or their 401ks, you know, for a long time, Facebook was a disaster at its IPO. Today, it's trading at nearly double the IPO. And so to lose half the value, but to see the recovery in a year go up by almost 400% means that there are a lot of people who are making money out there. So for me, one of the early posts that Michael and I chatted about was the discovery of the aluminum penny, 1974. 1974. Probably going to command over $250,000. And I say this with all understanding and the reality that there are not enough $250,000 items to be digested by the community. Folks, people have a lot of money, a lot. There's a lot of cash out there. And prudent money is looking for a place to go. The Dow's got downside. It's down 144 points. The NASDAQ is down over 1%, 43, almost 44 points. The S&P is down. The 10-year Treasury is all the way down to 263. People are losing money, but they're willing to lock up their, quote, rate of return over a 10-year period at only 2.5%. Gold is up almost 2% today. We're over 1260. And the impetus will continue because the old rule about being on a gold standard would define a time in the history of the government that we were the largest creditor nation in the world. Today, we're the largest debtor nation. And we the U.S., do not find ourselves in a net gold buying position. Look at the emerging part of the world and realize that money, investor money, is fleeing the emerging markets. Everyone's running for cover because the big five are in serious trouble. When there are problems in an economy, you see civil unrest. The cost of goods and services skyrockets. Now, a couple of years ago, I was talking a lot about the rate of food inflation in Iran, Iraq, the Middle East, watching food riots take place in China and spreading throughout the Middle East to Egypt. That's part of what led to the overthrow of Mubarak. These problems, the economy, the loss of jobs, the loss of stability, creates people throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails in the streets. And quote, law enforcement, the government, military, uses force to quash it. You have to be smarter than ever. And for years, I said, you've got to be smarter than the market. All you got to do is watch it. When markets hit near all-time highs, they correct. I can't tell you when they're going to correct. You know, it's the same thing I said to a good customer who said, Brett, at 1150, I want to buy gold. I want to buy a lot of it. My message was, you're in mining shares, and I understand that you believe your mining shares will outperform the physical metal. How much of it do you have? Well, this client owns a lot of silver, and it's a bulky position. But when you talk about the marketing, I've got a good friend who's out trying to sell Silver Eagles, and his phone's going to blow up today at spot. He's going to lose 10% on every single call that wants to buy 20 coins or more. Well, 20 coins, I don't think they're going to sell more than that. But it's from buying the initial purchase to the other ancillary items that they can explain so that you get involved in rarer coins, because folks, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is absolutely clear and logical that coins are commanding their biggest premiums because people are worried about the economy. What do you do if the stock market goes from 15,550, which is about where I'm at right now, and you see the Dow at 12,000, and you see a 20% hit? What do? Do you go back in and buy because your stockbroker is going to tell you go for the long haul? It's the same thing I'm telling you about a rare coin. There's no difference. Rare coins can be liquid as fast as you need them to be liquid. It is not for the faint of heart, and it is to be utilized with discretionary funds, money that you're looking out into the future for. And so when I talk about owning something rare and desirable, I'm hedging the bet within the hedge. I'm telling you, you should put 5 to 20% of your money into gold, silver, platinum, and rare coins. Own currency, own diamonds. Diversify yourself, because if you and your stockbroker or your money manager are scratching your heads and you're just playing in the paper market, your broker is telling you, look at your account online. There it is. You can see all the money you got. You're making money. You're losing money. There it is. You can grab hold of it. You cannot get liquid in the investment community in anything less than 3 days. It's not going to happen. Even if you wanted to borrow against it, you might find yourself taking more time to do the paperwork. So for me, I want you to own $20 gold pieces. And you can own $5 and $10 Liberties and Indians. Own United States minted material. Go all the way back into the 1840s. There are coins that have been cleaned and damaged. They're low grade, low quality. You don't have to pay exorbitant premiums. But you should put some of that in your portfolio, because this is one of the best areas you could put your money over a 10 or a 20-year period. Ask the people that are in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, and ask them about land prices 30 years ago or 50 years ago. And the amount of gain when you talk to these folks is huge. People that spent 5 or 10,000 that are looking at hundreds of thousands today. And yeah, I remember reading the car ads where you could buy a brand new car for $3,000 to $4,000, and of course today, if you don't spend $20,000, you're probably pretty lucky. It's part of the reason why people keep their vehicles longer. You keep hitting them with the paddle so that they'll stay alive, but there comes that point in time where you just got to get out of it. Last week, $6 billion was pulled out of the market from the emerging nations of the world because there are currency concerns. Heck, the Winter Olympics start on Thursday, and I saw a clip this morning of the local area, and there's no snow on the ground. How do you have that? You go up into the mountains. Well, that's another part of the debacle out there. We are again closing in on a debt ceiling debate. And, this is not a political show. I don't want to go there. What I do want to tell you is that it is time to move things around. It's time to understand that the government's going to manipulate the economy to make things look better than they are. They've got to do it. They've got to do it. And if you are doing the same thing day in and day out, then you're probably in the top 1% of income earners, and what's going on is not going to be a major concern. I remember one of the wealthier clients, prospects that I have, who told me he could afford to lose half his portfolio and it wouldn't change his lifestyle. Well, obviously, there are a lot of people that fit that bill. The bulk of us, the 99%, can't say that. We rely on what we've built and what we need and how we survive and what we do going forward. And all of that is to simply say, buy rare coins. Buy them, whether it's a half cent that you have to spend $1,000 or $2,000 on, or a coin that you spend $250,000 on. Based on your age, your goals, and your objectives determines what I want to suggest and what I like. You need to get your hands on a red book. Now, you can go to a used bookstore. You can come here. We'll sell you the most current editions that are out. The mintage figures establish, based on quality, which are the coins that matter in any given series. And coins that I like may not be the same coins you like. I love older $20 gold pieces. I know clients who have bought them who end up getting caught in the euphoria of the perfectly made coin, quote, last week, last year, 5 years ago. A 70 grade is perfect in our industry. It's the Sheldon scale, 1 to 70. And why not 1 to 100? I can't tell you that. I wasn't there in the mid 80s when it was created. But what I can tell you is that today the U.S. Mint provides perfect coins when they're produced. The fact that there's a big spread between a Mint State 68, Mint State 69, and a Mint State 70, proof or Mint State, doesn't really matter. You can see a spread of 10 to 30 percentage points between those three grades, depending on how many specific coins were made of whatever type you're looking for. I love Texas half dollars. I love Texas stocks and bonds. I love a lot of different things. So what you intend to do with your estate, whether you pass it on to your heirs, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, heck, folks, there are people in their 80s and 90s that have bought for me on a consistent basis. And they're setting up their estates utilizing gold and rare coins. There's no reason for you not to do it. The only thing you got to do is pick up the phone, 281-548-COIN, that's 2646. Hit option 0. We'll be more than happy to assist you. Now, I'll be out a little bit earlier today, probably around 2:15. Got a meeting that's going to take me into the city from Humble downtown. But if you've got questions, you can email me, Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. This was a weekend where I didn't get to email. It was an opportunity for me to see my son, Jason. It was a great time. And for those of you that have prayed for Jason and I appreciate it. It was a great weekend. Lots of pictures will be put up on the websites as we get through the next couple of days. But when it comes to the money side of my business, it's a very serious issue. And there are lots of reasons why lots of different things get recommended. We do not have a shortage of coins in the coin community. The material you want to own based on your goals and objectives might be a different scenario. That's why I ask you to call. That's why I ask you to email. There's billions of coins out there. Not all of them are worth owning, but depending on what your goals and objectives are, what your comfort level is, dictates what we decide to do. I hope that all makes sense. Now, I've got a busy day, so I'm going to cut this one short. Michael will hopefully chime in this afternoon. If not, I'll be back in the morning. But folks, I appreciate everything you do, and I appreciate you listening and asking questions. Email me. I know I'm reiterating, but there's a lot of information going on out there. And when I look at the markets and I see gold up, pushing over 1%, when I know that the market's been higher, now up 1.5%, silver is up a little higher, platinum is dollar percentage wise up the same amount. I can tell you that with the Dow losing ground and the other markets trading, that the dollar's getting hammered again, and the currencies are mixed. So the debate over crude oil, the dollar, all of the chaos in the world, all will affect your portfolio over time. And so I'm watching it. I'm keeping a pulse on it. Folks, you have jobs, and if you do, then you move things around to take advantage of other opportunities. That's what I can tell you, and that's what I work towards. I never get off a podcast without thanking Texas Children's Hospital, both the Downs Clinic and the Ronald McDonald House. If you have somebody who you can confer with, and you can provide a hot meal to the Ronald McDonald House at Texas Children's, it's on the 4th floor, there's 20 rooms, please call 832-824-8600. That's 832-824-8600. You can go to themeltdown.com, click on the donation banners. The information is all anonymous for me. You'll get a receipt for your contribution. I appreciate the doctors, nurses, staff, and the volunteers at Texas Children's around the world, in the medical center. The kids need our love and support, and that's what we want to extend to them. Folks, I appreciate you listening in. I'll be back tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, give me a shout. I'll be here at least until 2:15, so that gives me about 4 more hours. Appreciate it all. Be careful out there. It's going to stay chilly this week. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.